Laura, thank you for joining. So today it's just easy exercises, just like last Sunday where I used pencil. For today it's ink, pen and ink. So you can just watch. You can just watch it again later and do the exercises, or you can join me. So today will be pen and ink here. So I usually do this with my students as well. It's good practice. You can do it every day, and you can just do the textures and lines, and it's already good enough. Okay, so I'm going to use my Zen Art sketchbook because I'm going to use the whole flat lay of it, because I'll be doing as much as I can within 30 minutes or so. Okay, so all you need is your sketchbook or your paper, pen. So I have my drawing pen, or you can use your fountain pen, or you can use a simple gel pen, any of those. Okay, so I'm going to flip the camera, so don't be surprised. It's gonna flip around. Okay. Okay, there you go. So let me flip it right. Okay, there. And then let me zoom in a bit. Oh, that's too much. Okay. Let's see. All right, there you go. Okay, so this is already done, and we're going to do something similar. So you can see already what our finished exercises will be. Okay, so I find this very useful because you can really create full works out of just pen and ink, and just using the different ways of creating lines, textures, and even shade. Okay. The difference between ink, using pen and ink, and pencil is with a pencil you can adjust the pressure and it changes the intensity of your lines, but that's very hard to do with pen and ink, unless probably if you do the dip pen, where you can adjust the nibs. But if you're just going to use the drawing pen with this, you'll have to keep changing different sizes, or you can just do more lines, less lines to do your shading. Okay, so you can divide your paper using ruler into several boxes, or what I like to do is I just trace a circle and then do it within the circle. Okay, so it's up to you what you prefer. So anytime you have questions, just let me know and I'll get back to you. Okay, every now and then I check the comments, so don't worry. Okay, so they don't have to be one straight line. It's up to you. You can do it unevenly. Anyway, these are just exercises, so do what you like. Okay, so I'm going to start here at the edge so I can use up most of the paper. I'm thrifty that way. I don't want to waste paper. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to just using my pen already, I'm going to trace my first circle. You can already do several if you prefer. You can even trace with a pencil if you want to. Okay, so let's start with a slow vertical line. Okay, so even the speed that you draw your lines will affect it. If you draw it quickly, your lines will be rougher. But if you want even, nice lines, then you have to draw slowly. So let's do a slow vertical. Okay, so try to keep your lines next to each other as close as you can, and don't stress if they're not straight or they're suddenly curved. Okay, just adjust on the next line. Remember, you're not a robot, you're a human, so it's impossible to draw perfectly straight lines. Okay. So this can be actually very therapeutic, because you don't really need to make any plans on what you need to do, but you can practice your hand. Okay, so just slow and continuously. Okay, so if it's not perfect, don't worry. We're not aiming for perfection. We're doing practice. Okay, so just as you can see, they're not perfectly spaced. That's okay. It actually adds to the charm. So already you can see where you can use this, like wood grain, for example. This would make for great grades of wood. Of course, there's just some circles here and there. Okay, so this is your slow vertical. So now let's try it with quicker lines. Okay, just to see the difference. Okay, so let's do quick lines and then vertical. But this time around, you don't have to do one full straight. You can vary it. Okay, so let's try that. Okay, so you can already see the difference. So here, your lines are very uneven and very rough, and you can also use this for so many different applications. So it gives you two different kinds of lines. Both are vertical, so slow and quick. Okay, now let's go back to slow. Here, let's all do slow going down. Let's see. Let's do a slow horizontal. Okay. You can go slower if you want. Okay. You can experiment. What happens if you do it really slow or just medium slow? And similar with the vertical, try to draw the lines as close as you can to each other so that you practice your hand-eye coordination. So in school, we started with learning pen and ink using Tech Pen, and the point that we used was 0.4 or 0.5. It's like the perfect mid-sized pen. So if you're gonna get one, 0.4 or 0.5 would be a great size. Okay, so now let's go to the next one, which is the same as this, but now horizontal. Okay, so let's start with the tracing first. So if you don't like to have to keep stopping and making your circles, then you can already fill your whole paper with circles ahead of time. You can do that. Okay, so now let's vary it. Not just one long horizontal, but short and long, but quick. Okay. All right, so if you can already see in your mind what you can use this for example, if you did your watercolor and you want to add texture to the ground, but want to use a mix of watercolor and pen and ink, then you can use this to create texture, to create the texture of the ground. Okay, so now let's go to a curving line. Okay, so let's start again with a circle. This time around I'm gonna do 2 so that I don't have to keep stopping. Okay, and another one here. Okay, so I find that using this, tracing this circle, it separates them from each other, and I can also use a lot of the paper. All right, so here, let's do the curve. You can curve from this direction or from the other direction, from top, from bottom, up to you. Okay, you can practice it in different ways on your own. For here, I'm just going to do 1. Okay, so I'm going to curve from here. Sometimes I just do this as doodles, and I can fill up my whole page with just doodlings of these lines. I like it. It's the time where you don't really want to create something specific, but you want to keep your hand moving. So this is perfect. So what do you like to do if you don't have anything really in mind to do, but you're in the mood for some creativity? I remember, Laura, you actually do a lot of things, like you paint on bags, on masks. Very enterprising. Okay, so slow and easy, trying to stick to the previous line as much as I can, and when I feel like my previous line is a bit wonky, I just fix it on the next line. So just do that, okay? So if you do this often, your hand gets used to doing it, that it becomes really very natural, very instinctive. Okay, so now here, I'm not going to do the curving line that's short. Instead, I'm going to mix the 2 lines. I'm going to do short, quick first, and then I'm going to do long, quick, and then overlap it with short, quick ones, so that you can see that we can already do some like minor shading. So I'm gonna fill it up top to bottom. Okay, and then I'm gonna do short, quick in between. And then here too. Okay, so just like that, you already see some sort of shading that can be done. So I love it. Just different kinds of lines, already different effects that you can create. All right, so now let's go and do cross-hatching. Okay, so cross-hatching is really very popular with pen and ink. It's one of your ways of shading when you're using pen and ink. Okay, so let me do 3 circles down here. So you can really fully explore your cross-hatching. Different artists have their own different ways of using cross-hatching, so you can totally personalize this, whichever is most comfortable for you. One of my favorite illustrators, Edward Gorey, is so great with pen and ink, like beautiful works just with pen and ink. So you can check him out online and see his beautiful works. All right, so here, let's start with the basic cross-hatching, literally a cross. So like a letter T, okay, or a cross. And then after that, we'll follow it with the X kind of cross-hatching, okay? So let's start here, the cross. Okay, so we'll do quick lines for this. Okay, so with cross-hatching, you don't do the slow lines, you do the quick lines. So let's fill it up completely. Okay, now to exit out, or cross it out rather. Okay, so that's one. And then the next one is the X. Okay, so we'll do the diagonal. And then exit out. Okay, so these are the basic. Okay, so these will be your base when you're doing cross-section. Now, how do you shade? Okay, so again, starting from the base, let's do the cross first. So I'm gonna cover it all up just with one level of shading. So it's just like when you shade with pencil and you go over it once, and then when you want to make it darker, then you go over it again. So with pen and ink, that's what you do. But since you don't really shade with your nib, you add lines to show shading. Okay, so for the parts that need darkening, then you add more lines. So what I do is I do it by levels, and if I think I want it darker, then I can always add more. And here you can already cut your lines. You don't have to do one straight line. So when I'm shading a curved shape, I try to follow the shape of the curve so it doesn't look weird. Just like when you shade the skin, the arm, for example, the shadow won't be like straight like that. It would, you know, curve around the shape of the arm as well. Okay, so there, just with cross-hatching, adding more lines, you can already do your shading. Okay, there you go. And now let's do the X down here. Okay, so again, start with this. And then wherever you want your shadow to be, add more lines there. Okay, so right now I'm sticking to keeping it just the X, but you can totally mix the two later on, which we will do as well. Okay, so this is how you shade with pen and ink. you add more, and using the cross-hatching method, you add more lines to the parts that you need more shadow. Okay, so sometimes you won't like the first few ones you do. Just keep at it. Okay, the more that you do it, the more that you can change your techniques and find the best one that works for you. Okay, so as you can see, I've already shaded using cross-hatching. So now how about using the two of them together? Okay, so let's try that out as well for the last circle down here. Okay, so I'm going to start with a cross and then overlap the X. Okay. Here I'm not trying to do lines that are close to each other because I don't want to make it too dark already, just with a few layers. Okay, so using both, I'm gonna start with a cross and then add with the X. Okay, so do you enjoy making drawings in pen and ink? And if you do, what do you usually like to draw? So here you can totally mix it up. Okay, so a lot of artists like to use this method, mixing the crosses and the X's. Okay, so experiment with both, using just one, using either of them, and using both, and see how you can make it work for you and your style of drawing. Okay, so that's for the basic texture and cross-hatching. All right, so another way of shading would be the scribble. Okay, so this is already more loose, more relaxed, and a lot also like to shade this way, especially when they're drawing people, because it's soft. Okay, so starting with big scribbles, you just like do a one layer shading, and then for the parts that you need more shadow, then you just do smaller scribbles closer together, then you get your shadow. And then making them bigger to lighten, and then bigger, and there you go. And if you need to darken some parts, just go over them again with scribbles, and you've already done your shading. And you're just scribbling around. It's fun, it's easy, and you can get to shade with your pen. I love scribbling. Okay, so let's go to the next part. Here, another way of shading is the dots, the pointillism. Okay, so this can be quite tedious and can, take up really a lot of time because, of course, you're using dots. And the thing about doing pointillism is you really have to take your time, because if you become impatient and you just dot like that, sometimes your dots become like little checks. So you want to avoid that, especially if you want to keep it neat and in one fluid shading. And pointillism is great for shading soft objects. For example, if you want to show that it's an object that has a soft texture, then pointillism would be a great technique to use. Okay, so if you use more dots, then it means that's more shadowed. Less dots, less shadowing. Okay, so I'm starting here with the shadowed parts, dots close to each other. Again, you have to take your time, have more patience when you do pointillism so that it looks nice and you don't get little checks instead of dots. So I'm gonna follow the curve of the circle. I like to practice shading with a circle because you can already show that from a circle you've turned it into a sphere. So in school I really didn't enjoy this part, this pointillism, because it really took me hours to finish a small work and a whole week to finish one big work. But it really looked nice after. Oh my gosh, the time it took to do it, because I wanted to keep the points nice. But it's really very useful. You can use this for many effects, many kinds of texture, and also sometimes you want to contrast the two. Some parts you want to shade with hatching, some parts with pointillism. You can already show contrast. So it's still good to know how to do this. So even if it seems tedious, try to practice it too. Okay, so I've gone over this and now I'm gonna add here and there to refine the transition. So you have to take your time with this because it really will affect the quality of the dots and the shading that you will be doing. Try to start out with small objects when you use this so that you can practice it without getting tired easily. Okay, so already it looks better. So take a look every now and then to see where you need to add, where it needs some more refining. Okay, I think I like this. Okay, good enough. So you can always add more dots if you want it darker. Okay, so next let's do below here, let's do shading using circles. Okay, so for circles you have to use different sizes. For parts that you want more shadowed, use smaller circles, and for parts that are lighter, bigger circles. Okay, so let's start with smaller circles here, really tiny ones. Okay, as you can see, I'm following the edge, the curve. And now I'm going to grow my circle bigger. So it's becoming lighter. and then next bigger. And gradually by layer growing bigger. Okay, so just using circles, again, you're able to shade from dark to light. Okay, so just adjusting the sizes. That's how you do it with circles. Okay, so for this part, you can do whatever you want. Okay, you can explore more of the circles, more of the scribbles. I'll leave it to you. Let's say I'll do this now. I'm going to explore later. Okay, so for now, let's go to the other part. Now let's do some textures. Okay, so this is really a fun part. You can totally think of anything you want. Okay, I'm just going to give you some starting points, and then you can, of course, change it up if you want to, if you have something else in mind. Okay, so I'm going to do this first. Okay, creating, like, this can be used for like the skin of reptiles, for example, if like scaly skin. Okay, textured skin. Okay, so I'm going to start with curves going to one side and the next layer towards the other side. Okay. You can even adjust the flow. You can make it curved also. And now I'm going to flip sides. Let's start in the middle. Okay, and now I'm going to flip again. And finally, and there's a little bit left here, so I might as well go over that, just so there's not a weird space below. All right, so I love this. This is great for you can even do this for, like, for example, hills. You can use this technique to show like hills. Okay, next, let's do some scales. Okay, so I'm going to start with scales that are close, bigger. Okay, and then let's do the next layer. You can do your own scales. You can make pointier scales. That's also nice. Okay, so don't stress making it perfect. Just first try out the effect each kind of texture makes. And then later on you can refine, you can change it up. Okay, you can experiment all you want. Okay, so this is the nice thing about doing these kinds of practices every day. You can develop your own style, your own textures. And don't forget to check out Edward Gorey for the fabulous pen and ink illustrations. They're really very inspiring. Okay, so that's it for the scales. And now let's do like a fibrous kind of texture. Okay, so let's create several holes. Okay, and let's curve lines around it. Okay, so you can have fun with this. Do your lines whichever way you want. Just imagine something with holes with fibers running around it. Play around with the size of your lines, the placement. You can add more lines here and there. So for some parts you feel like, oh, the lines are too far apart, well, you can just easily adjust it, add an extra line in between. Okay, so play around with your lines. You can create different kinds of texture, different kinds of effects, and there's so much more to do. This is just but a few, but you get the idea. So I hope you learned something from this, and let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like to see in particular for this month's next following lives that I'll be doing. Okay, so I'm gonna flip the camera back again so that you can see my face while I'm talking to you. Okay, so here. Okay, so I hope you learned something today from me. The different lines and how you can use them in your pen and ink drawings. And for next time, we'll do sketches of people. How can you do quick sketches of people, for example, when you're outside? Okay, so how can you do that and still get the proportions right? Okay, so that's what I'll be covering next time. So that will be a next Sunday. So I hope you'll join me. And it's just like a teaser for the simple human anatomy proportions that can help you do quick sketches. Like you want to be able to just do quick sketches while you're outside of people around you. Okay, so thank you, Laura, for sticking it out. I hope it was good for you. And I'll see you around. Bye.